This is Gerald-Johan Vanoise with some small demonstrations of letter combinations as formations. With some demonstrations of the combinations of letters with S and U, or the opposite with U or NS. With two examples that are completely the opposite as letter combinations, and they of course will mean something completely different, but as a formula that is used in letters, they are combinations of directions that are exactly the opposite as in the opposite order, even though where you come out, what is the meaning of these words is not exactly the opposite, but the way how it fits into this frame of directions is exactly the opposite. And that's why sun is more or less the opposite as NUSS, which is a German word, which is more or less the same word when I see it in the opposite direction, or some, which opposite is MUS, which is a Dutch word which means sparrow, and I will also show you sparrow just as a comparison. But first, a little bit of theory. We have, of course, the letters in our scheme of order. The scheme of order decides how we perceive the directions in the letters and how we combine them very quickly in our mind, because we have more or less a frame in which these letters fit, and we make a combination. That's quite unconsciously, but there's a lot of reasons why it is also working like that. But we perceive these signals in this kind of order. So the first couple of letters are mostly about the inner. You can find them in the inner frame, so very close by, and that's how we perceive them. That's how we deal with them. Very close by. We start from these objects. And we do that as a kind of estimation. When we start from it, we don't think about it very much that this is only an estimation. But when we see it from the perspective of the full perspective of all the letters, especially from the last couple of letters, and we start from the last couple of letters, we will have to deal with that aspect that no, be careful, it's just an estimation. Are you sure this estimation is correct? Please correct it a little bit according to context. That's what arrives at the last frame. When we really have seen it all, at the last frame we see, okay, are you sure you see you have the full context correctly? Make the frame correct, make the balance correct, so that you can see it correctly. And why are these letters so much different? Why there are so many letters? It's also because sometimes you can count on just starting from, okay, I have something, I start from it and I start to work with it. You can count on these letters that are used there. If you can use them, it also means that you can do that. If it's a situation where things are changing all the time, you cannot simply say, okay, I start from here and I know immediately that I'm correct. No, if it's already moving, if it's changing, are you sure that you're still using, does it still have this starting point, or is it already in this next stage? We have to think differently, and this thinking of differently has to be discovered. How is it, in which stage is it at this point? How did it evolve it? That's the second category of letters. We deal with these letters and with the words with these letters differently. So we have to count a little bit, like how much did it evolve already? How well did it evolve already? Where is it evolving to? All these time frames are now more important. And the last couple of letters, they are in the outer frame. That's where the things arrive at the end, so where they will settle in the large environment. So there we have to determine if all these elements are understood well, and we have to make some more balance. We have to balance these things a little bit out to be sure if we are correct. So these are also different mentalities that you need there, and I already resumed why it is in a very short way to say this. So which letters do we need? We have the U need in these two different words in the two different orders. We have the U, of course, which is the starting, which is a starting point that we can count on. The starting point is divided into two parts, and it is a bit unclear which part we need to use, but we use the one that we are sure of. That's the U. The M is also in this section, so it is also about, we'll have to count on this, what we see there. What do we count? It's on the third category, so it's already at, it's at the edge. Can we still count on it? And it's growing to somewhere else. We have to look a little bit longer and see where these things are going. That's the M. The N is in the second category, so there we surely have to find out where the things are evolving to, how much they are evolving to in time and so on. So it's a slightly different approach where in time it fits in, where it fits in, and that kind of things. The S at the end is the edge of the whole system, so it's the last balance of the things that are going its own way at the edges there. And of course these will have an effect, and it's also at the edges, as you can see, it's really there in an estimation. So we look back and see, okay, are we sure that we really have all the elements together, and can we determine it that we really have everything? That's the kind of thoughts that are related with when you use this S at the end, especially when you start with it. And we already expressed a sun before. You will remember that if you saw the last video. So the S is always this balance between, there's a part you can't see and there's a part you can count on. With the U, you'll go further with the part you can count on. So you determine that part. The S is at the edges as the outer effect. The effect goes in both directions. Combined with the N, it goes inward, outwardly. So with sun, it's the outer frame with energy which goes into two directions. But it's at the outer frame, so that's at the edge of our understanding and sensing. There is a sun. And I just also realized, okay, if I describe it like this as a sun, if I turn it upside down, actually it also has to be the opposite. So instead of having all of it at the outside thing has to go inwardly, especially with U, so it has to show itself in the inner side with also the opposite directions to go inwardly. It's with a double S, so it can also double itself easily. So it's not just one frame, it's a two-dimensional frame of SS. The NUSS has two S's, so it's especially an emphasis. Yes, it has a two-dimensional frame. So this what you see, I put into a two-dimensional frame within U, or the inner circle. So what do I get? I have, of course, more or less this form, with a few variations, not many, in which you also have these two sections, if you want, that are in two directions at the same time, or two positions at the same time. And we have, of course, the NUSS, or the nut, or even this one. It's also a nut. It also still fits with the frame of this S form and the two S's even, with still always this uncertain position and certain position that you have in the U form. So it fits with NUSS. It's quite funny that it does so easily. Let's go to some. But before I do, why not just simply express the English word? Because the nut is also quite fitting with this image, because when I design it very quickly, I have this form which with the contradiction of the taking out of the nut with the T that presses out what I want to emphasize, or emphasizing out the frame that I want to use. And with nuts it will of course be trying to double itself so that I have a balance which is not easily found. So when I emphasize nuts, when I want to multiply it, the N is taking out, U is giving it a choice, T is taking out, S is giving it again a choice. At the end, you don't no longer can count what it is. You can't count on it anymore. Even if I put it a little bit better in the frame, there will always be this disbalance from the start. So that's what is growing in. Could grow people nuts if they grow in two directions all the time, as you can see here. There's another way to express nut. So I express it like that. Take out a part that from the part that I can use. But I can also make a division as the is really in the middle of things and tries to balance out in a neutral way where is what is useful or what is not useful. It will do that in a more neutral way, and with nuts then out of it, it will emphasize the outer frame then as that way. But even if I go with an extra emphasis on the nuts, the extra frames always comes back down to the doubling frame, and it's because you can't make the choice that one of the nuts is better than the other one. No, you can't do that. It will drive you nuts if you try to do that. Nuts or NUSS or nut, there's all the kinds of words that are slightly the same. With NUSS, there's one aspect that I didn't emphasize yet, but it's very important. Well, the first couple of letters in my scheme are about steady forms and positions that you can use, that you try to use them as a certainty. The next category is giving even more uncertainty, not about the form, but about the positions in time. So you need to wait until you have the right frame. With the U, it was okay, use the useful part. With the extra frame of time, it is use the useful part when the time is right. So that's what the N does. And if you compare it back to the NUSS or the NUSS I will start from, then it has this roof on top that is actually the nut. What is only the attachment to the tree. The real nut is underneath with the U, and when the time is right, you can take it off and take out the thing that you can use. And that is exactly also what is with N and U. You can use what's underneath when the time is right. And then you can use whatever is useful. And it doesn't matter that you have to make a choice. You have even the double S. It can be in all kinds of directions. It's the two-dimensional frame. Use the full nut. No, it doesn't matter. With nut itself, it's just a choice. There is this choice, of course, which takes out what can be used. So here you can see it expressed as that. It reminds us very much of the Dutch word, which is not just nut, but it is nut, nut with the U. So the frame is more like a focus on really that the part that I want to use. So it's even more like the choice that I can see something is useful. as it is expressed here. So I take out the part that is useful and I make this action to take it out when I see the time is right. And if I look at the theory, you can see there the T on the second level is about material, what is materializing, and you start to use it. That's the T. On the next level, it starts to use it with the aspect of timing, so you only use it within the correct time frame. When the time is right, you start to use it when the time is right, and so you can use it with the whole frame of timing is also a kind of following up. That's your attention. You follow it up in time and you use it only when the time is right. That's also what is visible underneath the letters. It's all there. So when I express it just with the directions themselves, so the N is, there's a time frame which says that in the U, where you have a not usable and a surely usable part, you take this out, or you say, okay, I found my useful part. That's the nut which you have established after the time frame is there, and then you can take it out. You can take out the nut. Nuts, on the other hand, started from a good timing. You can take something out and it goes again into its multiple directions. You don't know where it's going. It's unpredictable in that case. So what's the difference then with sun? Here the directions from where what it is going on as an effect is not the after effect. It starts with the effect and the effect is within the U. So in these choices, what can be used, what cannot be used, and that will be taken inwardly. That's the sun. And it's almost like description of a chemical process at the end, which will redirect itself to the inner form, as well as what you can see as energy outside. More or less a description. Okay, let's go now from sun to sum. So far we used the N. N shows actually always just especially one choice or one possibility, which you can try to find different possibilities, but with the N it's always the full sum of multiple choices that you can have. So that's why we will express the S with the U and then followed by the M as the maximum of what we can try to find as also choices that we will have in everything what happens, or possibilities. That's more the thing that I have to describe, how I have to describe it. The S started from a part that I didn't see, but it's there. We only can count on the after effect, so the effect that it will give to us, and we can sense and determine with more certainty its effect. The M is maximizing that kind of effect, so we try to count also on it, that we are sure that we have the certainty, the sure part, that we can measure it in a way that we are sure that we have the extending part, also the most extending potential of it, so that we can have an end balance. This counting, as it is used for the sum, is also determining what is certain. If you have a method that you can also count the uncertain parts and so on, okay, and have a very good description of it, that how this as well is an extension, then this is also part of the sum. But let's go to the theory to back ourselves up how this could work. So now we're very much focused on the ending. The end is we have the M. M is the maximum that we can get out of it of a certain part. The S in the beginning is actually from the last category, so we start with the last category. So we also start with the feedback immediately, that we are aware of, are we sure that we have enough context, that we have a good result at the end. So we also have to deal with that aspect. That's where we start from. We start from the last category with the last effect, and it has to have a good effect. So we have to deal with the limitations also of the ending here, and try to minimize its mistakes. So what is the M actually doing? It's from the first category. So we end with a way of thinking of the first category. The first category is about estimations. The second category of the first level, let's say, then of the three levels of letters, are about trying to estimate parts that we can use. So we try to decide that we can take out the most predictable parts that we can use. And there you see also the second category is about usage. It's about the materializing aspects that we associate with T. It's just, okay, use it. The L is, okay, I will make use of it. And with the M is, I have no other choice than to use it, because it's dominating. All the material is dominating. I have to use it. I have to make use of it. But it always is an estimation. So if I want to have a good sum, a correct sum, the S will say, no, we have to determine with our correct feedback that I also use a method for it. The S then in balance, and the balance of the S says I will focus on what will have a correct effect, because that's the only thing I can count on. So if I have enough backing theory to back my theory up, that I will use a method that is just like summing up the basic elements. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements, and that's my sum. But if I have a very good method that I can extend also my own estimation, then my sum is even more correct, and I can say, no, it's not just 5, it's 5 point so on, or it is 5n increasing in this factor, in with this. Then I'm also making a sum, thus it is still the sum. But the most important part is this certainty. We count on the certainty, and then we decide with the sum how much we can use, how much we predict, and how much we can really estimate, because that's what it's about. And where do we find the sum at the end? Also at the outer frame, we determine its final result. So the outer frame, from what comes out with the M, that's the part that we are counting on and that we will count. So if you see what I'm doing, so I go from, I make the sum here. In a way, it remains like an S, and also an estimation if I count all the elements that I see, and then I have more or less this kind of form. So it happens as a determining estimation from the outside out, and then arriving at the full or most correct amount that I can estimate as possible. And I already gave you two kinds of estimation. How well I estimate is how well I also have a calculation which is more correct when I estimate it better and deal with more context as before. So that means that if sum is here at the outside and is counting that there, the MUS, here it is MUS, then that's because that it exists in Dutch. It is MUS, it is with the sound U, so the sound will be more hollow than full. The U is more full and the U is more hollow, so it will be more like it has to have the area which is the difference that you count is slightly, it should be slightly hollow if you start to count it. So what do we have with MUS? So can we understand some and MUS and its contradictions and its counterparts or its opposites from the letters from this scheme alone? Yes, we can, and we can already recognize it. Just to see the eye there, that's our vision. So we have parts that are very near, so we deal with them differently. We try to see the things quite near from us, so quite exact as we see them. When we see things from far away, or we associate them with far away, okay, it's more, we have to determine what we can see and what not. So when we start with some, the determination is dominant. So we have to consider if it's predictable enough to estimate it and that we can use it. If the next letters, then the U and the M, is, of course, the U is the starting point where I still have options, where I choose the most correct one, the most dominant one, the most what I am personally sure of. And this will lead to M, the multiple options that I have there. So it will increase if I start it wrongly. So that's what I will have to do. I have to make a good estimation so that I have a correct distinction of all the elements that comes out of it. So of course it will matter a method of counting, because that will have an effect on how well I will do this. So we will determine always with the U to follow the most clear path, and we are sure that we can use it when it is dominating, that it also shows that there is more material there, and that the result will show its numbers. The other opposite word, MUS, which means sparrow, let's see that if we can see already some aspect of the sparrow in the opposite direction of order. And yes, I can, because here I will start from the enlargements themselves, so the number, so it comes in numbers, the sparrows come in number. I have some options there, or there are some options there from within that will have an effect at the end. That's already some of the character of the sparrows who come in numbers, and they all go into, so that's an aspect that you can recognize. But of course this will go further. It's also about how will I describe this in a form, and I will come to that as well. With MUS we have the U, so we have this which is in two parts, so we always have two parts in the center, so we always count two parts, and we try to start from the sure part, so, and then we can add another part, and in between is this hollow frame. From there we will start. M is then these extensions which will come out of it in the end. So this is the estimation, and the estimations have to come from inside out. Here I expressed already the form that is coming out and the hollowness underneath, the M and the U, but the end effect has to be in the S if I want to make a form. So the S, there's a leading part, because the U is about a leading part and a following part, and this will have this frame between filling in with material and keeping it hollow, like I have there with the red and the white. I will fill in later, because I first will show the end effect of the double S's, which are in between the frames of the inner outer edges. And there I will not get a good result if I don't realize that the U really is in the center. You always have to remember, if you have these sets of letters, the first set of letters is really in the center. The second set of letters are about what is changing, is in between, and what is really far away of the edges is of course at that point. So the U, where is that added, where is that position, it's in the inner center. So if I don't make the inner center small enough to see what I'm focusing upon, these double S's, which are at the edge of where it is maximizing and going towards its inner center and its production, how it is expressed, will not match. All these variations will not match, but when I make it close enough to the center, which I have to do because it's in the U, it's in that middle center, then these double S's at the edges, when I do that a couple of times, here they are only 3 times, but when I add them even up to 9 times even, they will fit easily together, and I will easily find a form that fits to the sparrow, as you can see here, and that is actually very easily fit by playing a little bit with these double S's, as you can see here, and that is actually very easily fit by playing a little bit with these double S's. Now when I have the variation of the 9 times S at the outside, I will fill it in as with the letters as they are, with the M and the S and the U. That the M is then the materializing form at the outside. The U is the more hollow, or I can also say not colored frame or not emphasized frame inside. And the S at the end is the effect, the outer effect, the S lines or frames that come out of it at the end. And the order is also visible. The M, we start from the M, the U underneath, and the S at the end fits with this image of the sparrow. Amazingly. Does this also, you can of course ask me like, yeah, but how does sparrow looks like? Does it look the same? Let's figure out. If I quickly design sparrow based upon this MUS form, it doesn't really fit very well because I have to adapt it to really sparrow, the form, and I get to more form more or less like this. So exactly the frame to fit into from sparrow into what a bird could be is not exactly the same. It's that's the strangest thing is that means also that sparrow is based upon another image, another inner image, and this inner image you can find it actually very easily. Just look up internet, Google the sparrow, what kind of bird forms do you get? A lot of bird forms will not look like this, but they will look like this. The sparrow looks like this, and that's exactly what the sparrow is describing. It's this O. This O is this in the environment. You have this waves, and then the turning in forms. You have this form quite easily compared to sparrow. I quickly designed this, but it is very close to it. This is the sparrow. The other one is actually not. That's the MUS. That doesn't mean that the MUS and the sparrow are not the same birds, but the way how we perceive the birds and how we first named the birds was with an image of a description in the back of our mind, and that's more looks like the sparrow. And that's also what you can do. The problem is with Google, looking up something in Google, is that it also takes the translated words to it, so it's not always 100% correct according to the letter meanings and letter associations that they are making. But each word in each language has different associations. Sometimes they're completely fitting. But here in this case, when you also look up the words in Google Image and you look up for MUS, it will a bit more often have this silhouette of the bird, which is sitting down, which is not flying. While you look up sparrow, it's a bit more often, not too often, but it's a bit more often. At least that was my impression of this kind of bird. At least it is recognizable with the letter combinations. However, there is one characteristic which is still the same in sparrow and MUS. The form itself, the MUS is compact, and I told you, so there are forms that are coming out. The S is at the end. There's a hollow or white areas in between, at least in the male one, you can see that. But that's all in the impact of the form in the middle. What you still have is the S out effect. If it really goes out, it will spread and it will have as much outcomes and maximum choices as it can have. Just the opposite as some. In some you have a lot of elements and you try to pinpoint them so that you have just one solution or one number in the end, while here it's the other way, and that's what is in the letters. You have as much possibilities to go outward and ways out. So, and that's in the sparrow, it's already spreading in its wings, and it's also the RROW also gives you way out, and it also has this characteristic that it can go to different directions, all these forms of the wings also show you clearly a very movable characteristic, which of course you can't see in this stable form of the MUS, but you can see it in its behaviorism, and it's still there in the word. There's one other thing I would like to emphasize, because MUS and there are some other words that are very close to it, but when I look at the top form that comes out and the hollow thing underneath, with a little bit less emphasis on the S effect in the end, it reminds me of another word, the Dutch word, which is muts, or the hooter, I think it is in English, because as you can see, if I put the S's at the back and I have more focus on M and U and T, I take it out as a quality of its own, a quality that I can use and have its effect. Yes, then I have the bonnet here, as you can see, and I didn't have to do much. I just saw that it was very easily available, and then I see it how it comes out very easily. And then of course I can also add another word, because MUS is with an U, the sound with the sound U. It's more. There's another possibility to show that as well. And I will do that because MUS, as it is expressed, MUS. Of course, the U will have more volume than the U. In U, it's just one small choice. You will have more choices. There will be more volume, and the volume is emphasized in the word MUS, which is also a Dutch word, which is expressed with O and A in the Dutch word. So the O is environment and the A is getting larger. So in the environment, in the air, if even, it is getting larger. So this also the thinner parts, the not parts, or the plus parts or the minus parts, they should be both available and still available. So the MUS, with the mo on top, I have this. With the A, it will have to spread further, and so MUS or mush is then, of course, you have the end effect, but the end effect is that it could even get air inside it. It is getting larger in the environment, in the air. But it still has a significant form of material, which loses it a little bit in the end. The H at the end in the English word also expresses it is in the air, it is in a certain space, where you can notice that there is a M materializing of something which is and which is not. So of course the not is then the air which is in the material, that it's not spreading in its full strength of material. It is there has this loosely hanging together form as well as you have in MUS. That's also recognizable, and I hope that this bonus was also beneficial to make you realize how you can even recognize letter combinations, and that it's in purpose that they fit because one of the reasons I also told you is we deal with things differently when we have a distance, when things are growing, when things are changing, when we can use it immediately. We behave differently and the forms are different, and that's all very easily associated with things. We just have to make it a bit more conscious as it is, and that's what these videos are doing. Anyhow, sorry that it was long again, because I felt a need to explain it a little bit more and give you also enough examples to show you what is possible in a few letter combinations and in the opposites of each other, and how they are really the opposites as a frame, even when it's when you come to a completely different object which fit to these frames. Anyway, thanks for watching. This was Gerald-Johan Vanoise. There's a list of words at the website, the short URL there. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to keep updates, if you want to keep yourself informed with updates. Thanks again, bye.